Thank you very much to Brendan Richardson for becoming a member of the Kinetic Rugby League channel, and thank you to Paul Hulk Wallace for upgrading his membership for the channel as well. If you'd like to become a member and support the work that I do, you can do for as little as £1 a month by clicking the join button below this video. But thank you to all members that support my content. But let's get on with the video. Welcome back to the Kinetic Rugby League channel, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there's only 5 games this week, but I've left a recap of last week's predictions up on the screen for you guys. I'm pretty happy with how it went. Much better than the week before. Much better. But there's only 5 games to get through because of State of Origin coming up soon. And just to let you guys know, I will be doing a State of Origin Game 1 predictions video with a full breakdown with the teams and going in depth as much as possible. So look out for that either tonight, tomorrow, or Thursday. It's coming soon, so stay tuned. But there's 5 games to get through. Let's crack on with the first game of this week. Kicking things off this week, we have the Bulldogs taking on the Dolphins. So starting with player availability, the Bulldogs will be without Kurt Mann, Max King, and Stephen Crichton due to Origin. And they'll also be missing Saluka Fafita and Kiraz. But Blake Wilson will cover for Jacob Kiraz. Blake Taff will replace Stephen Crichton in the centres. Lipoi Hopoi, and by the way, if I've just completely butchered that name, please just educate me in the comments if I messed that one up. But he and Josh Curran will start in the front row this week with Bailey Hayward at number 13 in the starting squad, while Samuel Hughes and Jake Turpin, they come in this week and will start from the bench. But the Dolphins will be missing Tom Gilbert, but they'll be missing Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow due to State of Origin, with Jake Avarillo covering for the Hammer at fullback, and Max Feagai will take the vacant centre spot. Now, the Bulldogs have taken the win over the Dolphins in the last few meetings, and the Bulldogs go into this with 4 wins in their last 5, compared to the Dolphins only winning 2 in the last 5. Now, the Dolphins are fairly close to the Bulldogs in terms of attacking production, but the massive difference is defensively, where the Bulldogs have only conceded 15 points per game, compared to that of the Dolphins conceding 22 points per game. But the Bulldogs are undefeated at home this season, but have a 50% win rate without Stephen Crichton. Is that a good or bad thing? Who knows? It's 50%. I do think the Hammer will be a bigger miss for the Dolphins than Crichton and King will be for the Bulldogs. Since the Bulldogs are structurally sound as a defensive side, I think the Dolphins have to come up against that without one of their best attacking threats. And that's going to be a major problem for the Dolphins, I think. So, in terms of a margin, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to win 13+. And for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Blake Wilson. Next up, we have the Eels taking on the Seagulls. So again, with player availability, the Eels will be without Mitchell Moses and Zach Lomax. They're replaced by Dean Hawkins and John Samrani in the backs. But Manly will be without DCE and Jake Trebojevic this week, which sees Jake Arthur, partner Luke Brooks in the halves, and Jazz Tavanga will take the 13 role this week for the Manly Seagulls. Now, both sides are on really poor form at the moment, only winning 2 games in their last 5. But the more recent results have looked more favourable for the Eels, just in terms of points difference. But statistically, over the course of the season, the Seagulls have clearly been the better offensive and defensive side, and they've beaten the Eels on the last few occasions, including a win for Manly in round 4 this season. I do think the Eels started looking like a competent side once Mitchell Moses came back in, and now that he's out again, the Eels will obviously be a weaker side this week. And now Dylan Brown will have to rely on Dean Hawkins to control the game. Even though DCE is a huge miss for Manly, they still have stability with the rest of their backs, which includes Saab, Kula, Garrett and Hapawate in the backline, with Tom Trebojevic at number 1. Also, on paper, I think the Seagulls bring more size to this contest as well. This is the worst possible time to be missing out on Moses, especially now the Eels have been looking like a better side, and they really need the points at the moment, which I think would have been possible with Moses and Lomax in there. But for a prediction, I'm going to go with the Seagulls to win 13+. And for a try scorer, I'm going to take Ruben Garrick. Next up, we have the Panthers taking on the Knights. So starting with the options missing for the Panthers, they are without, and bear with me on this one, this could take a few years, Luke Garner, Isaiah Papali'i, Liam Martin, Brian Toto, Dylan Edwards, Isaiah Yeo, and Nathan Cleary. Whereas the Knights are without Jacob Saifiti and Kalen Ponga. So the Panthers will fill those gaps with Dean Laurie, Thomas Jenkins, Brad Schneider, Preston Rickey, Liam Henry and Lindsay Smith in the starting roles. The Knights have moved Fletcher Sharp from number 6 to number 1, and they've put Tyson Gamble in the open number 6 spot to partner Jack Cogger in the halves. Neither side is playing particularly well right now. Yes, the Panthers are slightly better, but I don't think they're playing well enough. at the moment to suggest to me that with these major misses, that they can deal with those misses this year. Now, last year they could get away with it in some games because they were already performing incredibly well. This year, not so much. The Knights are a poor attacking side. We all know this. And it doesn't help not having Kalen Ponga in there, but I think Sharp will do a decent job at fullback. He's a great runner of the ball. And I'm a little bit higher on Tyson Gamble than most other people, I think. Now, the Knights forward pack is also a lot more stable in terms of availability, and that could play a big factor in terms of defence through the middle. Now, looking at stats, the Panthers are undefeated in their last 10 games against the Knights, and the Knights have only averaged 13 points per game in 2025, but I do think with so many major players out and the fact the Panthers already haven't been a good side this year, compared to a Knights team that is desperate for points, I think the Knights can just take this one. So I'm going to go with the Knights to win 1 to 12 points. And for a try scorer, I'm going to take James Schiller. Next up, we have the Roosters taking on the Sharks. Both sides put in a really solid performance last round, with the Sharks beating the Storm and the Roosters narrowly losing to the Bulldogs. So both put in great efforts. Now, the Sharks are only missing Samuel Stonestreet this week, whilst the Roosters are without Angus Crichton, Connor Watson, Lindsay Collins, Navahu White, Robert Toyer, and Spencer Leniu. Now, this does mean that players like Dominic Young come back in for the Roosters, and honestly, their backs don't look half bad, with Tedesco, Tupou, Billy Smith, Nwangani Tawaze, Young, Sandon Smith, and Hugo Savala. That list seems quite strong on paper. It seems pretty decent. But in the forwards, yes, you still have Wong and Radley as regulars, but they're now calling on younger, less experienced players to compete against a forward pack in the Sharks that has competed with some of the best forward packs in the comp this season. Now, the Roosters aren't anything special this year, but I do think they have the ability to ruin people's day. Now, I'm not talking about their own fans here. Yes, sometimes they do. But what I mean by that is that when they're expected to lose, or they just aren't favourites, they kind of find another level from somewhere. I don't know where they find it from, but they find it from somewhere. So I am going to lean heavily in favour of the Sharks just because of that's how the evidence looks for me. It's pushing me towards a heavy win for the Sharks. But if the Roosters make this a tricky one, or even get a win, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I think the Roosters have it in them, but just based on the evidence, the quality through the middle, the ability to spread the ball, the control from Hines and Trindle, and then the weakness for the Roosters in the forwards, it just all kind of leans towards the Sharks. But somehow if the Roosters win this, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going to go with the Sharks to win 13+. And for a try scorer, I'm going to take KL Ito. Finally, for this round, we have the Warriors taking on the Raiders. Now, these sides met in Vegas in round 1, and the Raiders were absolutely dominant. The Warriors were not even close to competing with Canberra, but the Warriors are a very different team now compared to what they were in round 1. The Warriors are without James Fisher-Harris and Mitchell Barnett. Barnett is out due to State of Origin, so Jackson Ford and Bunty Afoa will start up front this week for the Warriors. But fortunately for the Raiders, based on the performances of a lot of their players this season, they're lucky to only be losing out on Hudson Young this week for State of Origin. And they keep players like Xavier Savage, like Jamal Fogarty, and even Corey Horsburgh, who somehow has not made State of Origin Game 1. How that's happened, I just couldn't tell you. I don't know. Someone let me know why you think he hasn't been picked. I'd love to know. But the Raiders have been allowing a lot of points recently, but they're answering back with more than enough points in recent weeks to get firm wins. Whilst the Warriors, they are undefeated in their last 5 games, but have won some of those games by either 2 points, 4 points, 1 point, and another one winning by 4 points. So they've had a lot of close contests in recent games. Now, the Warriors are clearly a better defensive side, but the Raiders are a significantly better offensive side this season. What I'm predicting for this game is a strong Raiders lead, with the Warriors making a late comeback effort, but just falling short. And I'm picturing that one New Zealand commentator to be going absolutely mental on the broadcast as it happens, but I'm just kind of picturing the Raiders taking a decent lead, the Warriors coming back, but not quite getting it done. I think the Raiders have learnt their lesson from a few weeks ago against the Bulldogs, and I think they would be able to see the game out this time round. But I think it'll be a hell of a lot closer than it was in round 1. So for a margin, I'm going to go with the Raiders to win 1 to 12 points. And for a try scorer, I'm going to take Xavier Savage. So to recap my predictions for this round, I'm going to take the Bulldogs and Seagulls to win by 13 plus. I'm going to take the Knights to win by 1 to 12, the Sharks 13 plus, and the Raiders by 1 to 12. In terms of win confidence, I'm at about 70%. I do think, as mentioned previously, the Roosters could get an upset in there against the Sharks. I just feel like that's possible. I think the Warriors could turn things around this time and get a win against the Raiders on this occasion. The Panthers could easily beat the Knights. The Knights have not been a great offensive team this year, but I'm mostly confident with the Seagulls beating the Eels and the Bulldogs beating the Dolphins. In terms of margin confidence, I'm at about 85%. If the games go the way that I think they will, I imagine the Bulldogs probably winning by 13 plus. Maybe with the Dolphins being a fairly decent attacking side, they can keep it a bit closer to 1 to 12. I do think the Seagulls should be fine against the Eels this week, especially without Moses. I do think the Knights and Panthers, I can't see anyone winning that 13 plus, to be honest. But you just never know with the NRL this season. Again, Roosters and Sharks could easily go the other way, and Roosters could make it a tricky one like they did against the Bulldogs. And yeah, Raiders and Warriors, I can't see either team winning that 13 plus, especially with how well both teams are playing at the moment. But that's my recap for this round. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys have your own prediction, please do let me know in the comment section down below, and let me know how you've been getting on this season as well. Probably better than me, to be honest, as I am the worst NRL tipster on YouTube. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. Maybe join the Kinetic Rugby League Discord. The invite link is in the description if you want to join that forum. And yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.